So I've only used this for a couple of games last night, so what I'm gonna do is share some first impressions and early thoughts about it for anyone who is interested about this mouse or thinking about getting one from a reseller. Just so you know, this is not a review and I don't want to do a full review of this mouse for reasons that I will share at the end of this video. So what do you get with the ULX Tarik? Well, pretty simple design and packaging, just a different print on the box. Inside the box, you got the mouse in this unique colorway. You got the wireless receiver, a USB-C cable, and this one's very thick, so not so great if you want to use your mouse while it's charging. Grip tapes, and this is only for the left and right sides of the mouse, which I think is fine because if not, you'll cover up the wonderful details of the mouse buttons. One thing I gotta mention is that these grip tapes feel like they are made of silicone and they are ridiculously smooth. I would not use them unless you absolutely hate the holes on the sides of the mouse, and you should probably leave it in the box if you plan to sell this mouse in future. And it also includes an instruction manual. The details in the design looks really good, and there's something about the finish and colors that brings out the engraving details on the mouse buttons very nicely over the standard black ULX. And I like how the scroll wheel looks wide and pretty flat with its design. The honeycomb holes are a lot more obvious, not just on the sides but the top as well in this light colorway over the standard black version. Not much going on with the bottom of the mouse, just more cutouts and a little power switch right over here to turn on the mouse. Overall, the shape feels good. I like it, and there's a nice amount of palm support, and the grooves on the mouse buttons feel good even when you have your fingers placed further away from the tip. Sidewalls feel pretty flat and the hips curve out just enough. Some mice overdo it with the hips and that makes the mouse feel too wide in the hand. This is very nicely done. The side buttons have a very nice size and they do protrude out quite a lot more than other mice. But other than that, I think that this is a pretty good looking mouse and I do like the white and blue colorway. It kind of reminds me of gashapon, those vending machines in Japan when you put $1 in and a capsule toy comes out, which is nice. It's a very nice memory for me. But I do have to say that the black ULX looks more of a limited edition over this one. The original ULX looks classier and more professional, while this one looks like a fun toy. So I chose a medium size for this mouse because I was planning to use this for personal use outside of testing and reviewing other products, and I wanted to go with a size that gives enough support in my hand because I like to use a palm or relaxed claw grip. And I think I made a pretty good call because the Beast X Mini that I'm reviewing, which is very similar in size with the ULX Cheetah, is way too small for long hours of use for me. The switches are custom spec Huano blue shell switches designed with Huano, and quite a number of brands have been doing that with Huano, so they sound and feel a little different. The switches here are decent and light to press, feels a little bit cushioned and not quite as snappy on the rebound, but they are pretty decent. I'll throw in a couple of mics with Huano blue shell switches in a short sound test later for you to have a better idea of the sound profile. So what caught my interest besides the colorway is the smooth touch finish coating on the mouse, and this is their first time doing it. The mouse is very evenly coated and it looks great and feels nice, but the level of grip from this coating is kinda mid. So this is something which I'm sure they will continue to improve on with future Pro Series mice. But I think it's a pretty good first attempt and I would take this coating over no coating for sure. So yeah, custom Huano switches, smooth touch coating, and a unique colorway. These are features which you can expect from future releases in the Pro series. The overall build quality is pretty good. I've been observing people's feedback on batches of ULX that have been released since launch and I didn't notice any problems with the build quality on this one. It really is a nice solid build for an ultra lightweight mouse with this many holes in the structure. No problems with the side buttons here, nice light clickiness, but they feel a little cushioned and springy with the post travel. There's quite a bit of play with the mouse buttons, but not to the point where it should bother you. The scroll wheel feels ridiculously cheap though, and though it works fine, it just feels thin and plasticky and it sounds really bad. So final thoughts, does it feel like a limited edition mouse? It's a bit of yes and no. Yes, only because it's limited to 10,000 pieces features, but other than that, it doesn't feel like much else makes it special. And no, because it just feels like a mouse in a different colorway. Besides the switches and coding, which I particularly feel should be a standard on the continuous production of the ULX, there's not much else that makes this very special. And considering how fast tech has been progressing in the last 3 years, and since Razer's exclusivity with Pixar's POR 3950 has ended, more brands have been getting hold of newer sensor tech, which is something that gamers would begin to expect on newer mice. But I must say that this does not make the 3395 sensor obsolete. It is still a very fantastic sensor. Also notice that Finalmouse does not mention the sensor model on their website, but yes, this is a POR 3395. I feel that they could have done more to make this a stronger limited edition release for collectors, but I will say that the mouse as it is pretty good, and for the price, considering that this is still the only carbon fiber composite chassis with a coating, it is acceptable for me. Now on as to why I won't review the ULX is really because there have been too many issues and changes in QC between batches since launch. And quite frankly, I feel there's too much risk not just for viewers but for gamers in general. If I were to get a decent unit and share how good it is, I would want people to experience the same level of quality. And yes, I know that getting a bad unit is a possibility for every product, and it is good that they are improving the product over time, but when you factor in their customer support, limited units per batch, the price, and waiting time, because some people have been waiting for 4 months to receive their continuous production unit, that's something I wouldn't want anyone to experience really. And as a reviewer, or just the way I am, I try not to put people in such a situation. Even though it would be great content for my channel, being one of the most hyped mouse since 2023, it does not feel like the right thing to do. Unfortunately, this happened for one of the products I reviewed this year due to overwhelming demand, and though it's not something I or the company expected, I do feel pretty bad about it. But it is still quite possibly my favorite mouse of the year. I always research on the brand and company before reviewing any product, and it was not something I expected, and I do apologize. I don't know, when I review things, I always think about my brothers. I have 2 brothers, and you know, different products appeal to different people, but generally I do not feel comfortable to recommend something to people with that much risk. No shade on Finalmouse though, and I honestly feel that they have a fantastic concept and product, but some things just need to be worked out, which I'm sure they will. But until then, I'm holding off doing a review on the ULX Original Edition. No idea why they kicked off this Pro series without sorting things out first, but hopefully things improved and the QC of this batch of mice is carried over to their continuous production. And no, this is not one of those videos where I say I won't review a product and then a week later you see me reviewing this mouse. It's not my kind of thing. So to wrap this up, here's a quick sound test and comparison of Huano Blue Shell switches on different mice.